Good morning. I am Karen Sacramento, consultant at the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and I have the privilege of working with teacher induction programs across California. And this morning, we are delighted to welcome both teacher and administrator induction programs to the 4th Annual California Induction Conference. Welcome. 4 years ago, induction leaders restarted this important conference. And this year, we are over 500 strong, gathered across the state virtually to reflect and connect with one another. To start our morning, we will be in the general session, and then we will move into breakout sessions for most of the day. The general session will be for about an hour in a webinar format, which means that presenters' microphones are open and participants are muted. For this session, we will not have a chat function enabled, and we also ask that you please do not use the question and answer feature due to the participant size and time constraints during our general session. But the sessions that follow throughout the day are designed to be very interactive and will allow for discussions and chats and questions and answers. So again, my warmest welcome to each of you this morning, and I will now turn it over to Gay Roby for her words.
Good morning. I'd like to add my welcome to Karen's to the 4th Annual California Induction Conference. It's not quite Palm Desert in December, and it's not quite the Fresno Doubletree and Convention Center as we have gathered in years past, but the heart and the soul of this conference is exactly the same. The teacher induction community throughout its 20-plus year history has always valued community building and the sharing of best practices. The values that the admin community have also embraced as they have developed the more recent administrative services induction programs. Throughout the day, you will experience both community building and the sharing of best practices, which we hope will result in stronger preparation programs, teachers, and leaders in California schools. I hope you find the day both enjoyable and profitable. Before we move on, we wanted to start with some online norms to make your day the best possible experience for the breakout sessions. Our presenter materials may be accessed for each session. The link should be found at the bottom of page 1 on your agenda if you use the Zoom link that is there. Secondly, we ask that you avoid multitasking so that you can hear all information. I know it's very tempting to try and slip other things in like email, but to get the most out of your day, please avoid multitasking when possible. During the breakout sessions, there will be chat features available. We ask that you use those to post your questions. Karen already said that the chat feature is not used for this opening session, but it will be in all of the breakout sessions. If you are not speaking, we ask that you please mute yourself to minimize all background noise, and be mindful when you are using a breakout chat room or you're asking questions that there are several other folks as well, so not to monopolize the time and the attention. And then finally, the facilitators for each session will be monitoring the questions. They will contact the presenter according to the presenter style, whether it's going to be, sure, interrupt me, or will you please wait a few minutes? So that will, we ask you that you work with them to ask your questions and be patient if it's not right away. We do have some troubleshooter personnel if you have a link or anything that is not working, and it's on the next slide. It was also at the bottom of your agenda. Thank you. So we have Jamal Harbison, Michelle Bernardo, Iori Osamwanye, and Cheyenne Jones, who are available to help you troubleshoot, and provided it isn't within your computer, and get you online as soon as possible. And with that, I'll turn it back to Karen.
Thank you. I am honored to now introduce Dr. Mary Vixi Sandy, who serves as the Executive Director of the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Dr. Vixi Sandy has been a policy leader with more than 25 years of experience working in higher education and government. In her role at the Commission, she currently oversees public policy related to educator preparation and licensing as she directs the CTC, which awards over 250,000 credential documents per year and accredits more than 250 colleges, universities, and local education agencies that offer education preparation programs. Dr. Vixi Sandy's professional focus is on building the capacity of teachers, leaders, public schools, and communities to meet the needs of California's diverse student body. So it is a great privilege to welcome and turn it over to Dr. Vixi Sandy this morning.
Thank you so much, Karen. It is such a pleasure to be with all of you, although I can't see any of you. I'm taking it on faith that you're there and that we're here together. I wish that we could be together in Palm Desert or wherever to engage in the informal time and conversation that makes our togetherness so rich and so wonderful. But next year will be all the sweeter for the vaccines that are coming and the new world we're about to enter. I don't know about you, but I started 2020 with such optimism. We were really beginning to move forward with a lot of reform work we've done in the last several years. The January budget from the governor was going to provide $350 million through the commission to work on ending teacher shortages. What a broad and glorious goal that was in January, and a little nerve-wracking to think about how we were going to move that much resource into the field, but what a great problem to have. We had a strong team and a clear mission at the commission, and a desire to really move our collective work to the next level. And then came March and the COVID and the shocking moment that COVID brought to us. Will you advance the slide, please? I have been adjusting my perspective, it seems, daily since we closed our offices or sent most of our staff to telework on March the 19th. And one of the things that I heard this year, there's been so much collective learning and sharing and supporting across our communities. I had the opportunity to listen to a blog that Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings participated in, and she's been doing this talk in various venues where she talks about the 4 pandemics that are really impacting us right now, all at the same time. And that includes, of course, the coronavirus, COVID-19, school closures, economic closures. But the first pandemic here really is COVID, and it's very immediate for all of us. But the second pandemic has been with us for quite some time, and we've really seen the flashpoints this year with the killing of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, the shock to our system that comes with the pandemic of surging anti-Black racism. Third pandemic, the coming economic downturn that is an inevitable outcome of the disruption we're experiencing societally. The fourth pandemic she talks about are the catastrophic environmental events that California has really seen year after year after year. These are extraordinarily destabilizing movements around us that we are having to figure out how to adapt to and how to continue to work with our students through. Next slide, please. The immediate impact in our sector of the COVID-19 school closures was a hard stop for preparation of our education workforce. We found ourselves in a situation in March and April with the closing of testing centers that no one could get into preparation and no one could get out. This was not a good moment for all of us. Second major impact that we really began to grapple with in the spring and are continuing to grapple with now are the learning loss for students and for educators in training because our systems were so disrupted. Third major impact was just the challenge of gaining access to learning for our students. Huge equity issue there in terms of who has access to online learning, who has the tools they need, who has the bandwidth they need, who has the familial structure necessary to access learning and continue with learning. And then, of course, for all of our educators in preparation who rely on clinical practice in order to complete their preparation, there was no place to go. Fourth is just increasing stress and anxiety at all levels due to these 4 pandemics. It's been significant. Moving to the next slide, it really presented for us at the Commission some very urgent questions. First, how do we keep the educator preparation pipeline moving? We know we've had shortages. We were prepared to invest a significant amount of funding to address shortages, to end shortages. We are more than a little concerned about the continuing presence of that problem. And with a pipeline that is slowed down by closures, it really is an urgent question for us. Secondly, how do we ensure that all educators, one slide back, there we go, continue to receive the preparation that they need to become successful practitioners? That question showed up in earnest when people could not complete their 600 hours of clinical student teaching necessary. And the questions came in, what do we do if we only got 500 of those hours? What if we only got 400? How do we make sure that enough and sufficient preparation was occurring for this workforce to actually be ready to take up the work? And finally, how can we strengthen our systems of preparation and induction to meet this moment? 3 urgent questions that were really driving us. To the next slide, please. And as we have been working at the Commission and working within our communities, really it seems that there are about at least six different toolboxes that we need to navigate these pandemics and to continue and keep our practice focused. The first, of course, is flexibility. When everything closed down in last spring, and we couldn't get into schools and we couldn't get people moving into or out of preparation, it really drove us at the office, at the Commission, to dig in and take a very close look at every requirement we have and determine what kind of flexibility we could provide the field so that we continued to have sufficient preparation, but we adapted to the moment. And the staff, I will tell you, the staff on this, in participating in this meeting and back at the office, have been amazing in the way they've thought through how we can create a pathway forward for this community. We worked with the administration to secure an executive order that allowed us to move some of the testing and assessment requirements forward and into the induction space, which is a big focus for this gathering today, is to talk about what does that mean and how do we do that. But the ability to move the performance assessment work into induction and to move the completion of various tests into the period of time that someone has a preliminary credential was an amazing relief valve. And we're grateful to the administration for providing that relief valve this year and to the legislature for extending it for another year, because we're not out of the woods yet on this. Second major tool set has to do with creativity and innovation. I will tell you, I have been blown away. I mean, I've been a fan of teachers as some of the most critical professionals working in society today for my whole life. This is mission work for me. To work on teacher preparation and licensing is mission work, because I have such enormous respect for the community of educators that do this work. But this year has been amazing to see teachers and principals and counselors pivot in the moment in their practice to figure out how to move the whole thing to a distance learning and distance engagement experience. The innovations that we have seen emerging as teachers figure out what synchronous instruction looks like, what asynchronous instruction looks like, how to make online learning an engaging and powerful experience for students. That has been an essential part of how we've stayed focused and are making progress in our practice across the board. Third major aspect of what it means to succeed and survive in a pandemic has been adaptation. The more mired we are and committed we are to the structures that absolutely cannot be moved or adjusted, the closer to the breaking point we would be. But this community is nothing if they're not adaptive. And I would say that's true from the legislature and the governor to the commission, the State Board of Education, the Department of Education, and our schools and districts. It's not been a question of what can't we do. It's been a question of what can we do and how do we get it done. And this, of course, requires collaboration. Certainly in the preparation portion of what we do, preparation of the workforce, when schools closed down, when the buildings closed, the ability to continue business as usual just stopped. So what did it take? It took our educator preparation programs and their partners in K-12 school districts and schools really putting their heads together during a time when the urgency of the moment kind of works against. You don't have any spare time to collaborate and talk about your work, except that you have to do that in order for your work to be cross-infected by each other, and in order for us to keep our systems moving forward. Key critical aspect of our navigating through this pandemic. Next key aspect of that is just having systems of support and strengthening those systems of support. You all, I hope, remember Margaret Olebe. She was one of the giants who helped us conceptualize and bring into existence the induction system that we have today. She would talk about having 3 years of situated learning for teachers that moved from preparation into induction. And the fact that we have this structure, this learning to teach system, where we have made formal commitments to both the pre-service space and the induction space, enables us to work across that system as we prepare this education workforce. And that is critical to our success in this time. And then finally, there are going to have to be trade-offs and mitigations. We may not hit 600 hours of student teachers face-to-face in bricks and mortar spaces with young students. So what do we do instead? I want to commend to your reading or your listening pleasure an item that was up on our agenda for the commission meeting last week that Terry Clark and Cheryl Hickey and Sarah Solari and others contributed to. They have been working for some time with a group of faculty and practitioners across our sectors to think about what happens this year if we cannot have access, if student teachers can't have access, physical access to kids. What are we going to do instead? And they have done some very important thinking about how these aspects of the system work in order to get us where we need to go. And that's part of what we're about here. If we move to the next slide. Early on in this pandemic, when we were all just really anxious and freaked out, James Webb sent me a tweet that he had captured somewhere. And I don't know who Peyton Anderson is. If you are in this community and in the room, thank you for this inspiration, because it is posted right above my computer in my home office. It says, schools are not closed for the year. The building is. If you listen closely, you can hear the hum of hardworking teachers, administrators, and support staff preparing to save the day in ways and means never seen before. Yes, we are brokenhearted, but these broken hearts will lead. In truth, it's a tall order, but the resilience of this community and the intent to double down to get the job done has been a profound emerging strategy. Next slide, please. Dr. Yvette Jackson, who is a senior scholar with the National Urban Alliance for Effective Education, writes and talks about what our students in K-12 classrooms and schools are going through right now. And of course, she speaks the obvious when she says that our students are dealing with an amazing amount of stress and trauma right now. And she urges educators to reset their practice, to focus on asset-based strategies, to focus on what we can do and replace the focus on what we can't do with that drive. What are the assets and strengths that students bring to the learning moment? And her point is that focusing on the strengths of our students rather than on their learning gaps is actually a strategy to help engage them and to help them focus on what you're doing in teaching in the classroom, whatever shape that might take. It helps them to affiliate with the school in ways that are going to keep them on track in some way. She talks about the gift of engagement and that this is something that teachers can provide their students and that it's key to their social and emotional well-being. This needs to be a key focus for us in preparation and in induction as we move forward. Next slide, please. So that brings me to an interesting tool that we're going to be talking a lot about with you during this conference. And one of our purposes today is to support the induction community as you adapt your practice to meet this moment. Performance assessments are a key tool. They help us to learn and to organize our practice. And they, as you learn more about and dig into the California Teaching Performance Assessment, the EdTPA, California Administrator Performance Assessment, there should be a very strong resonance and echo for you because these assessments draw heavily from the early formative assessment work we've developed within the induction system as a way to structure the conversations we have between educators. They draw from the same sets of standards that we use across our 3 years of situated learning, the CSTP and the capsule. They share this DNA, and they will be a tool that help you as induction support providers to help our new teachers who are entering practice with the need to finish their performance assessment to get so that they can gain the strength that they need to earn, to just deepen their practice, but also then finally earn their clear credential. Next slide. So back to Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings. She talks about the pandemic being a portal or a door between two worlds. And she says we have two choices. We can go into this new world dragging our greed, avarice, racism, big data banks, smoky skies, and polluted water with us. Or we can choose to go lightly into this new world with excitement and energy to fight for a new world that isn't bogged down by the baggage of the old world. She says it's time for us to have a hard reset. And we need to ponder that together. Final slide, please. I want to just close by talking about the Commission's resolve in this moment. We've been taking stock. We're in the midst of a strategic planning effort, and we've reached out to our communities of stakeholders and will continue to do so to get a sense of what we're doing in our systems that work and support and help to develop the educators that we need, and what isn't working so well. And the Commission is committed to doing a stock taking and identifying and sharpening the tools that we have, particularly around diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is emerging as a very important priority in this moment. The whole diversity, equity, and inclusion effort, and the Commission is deeply committed to seeing what we can do to advance our practice in these domains by looking again at the systems that we have, how we enable and how we constrain structural racism and equity and justice and implicit bias. These are things that we're all working on, and we're committed at the Commission level to continue to work on it. And finally, the Commission is resolved to continuing our collaboration with the field, to maintain the standards for professional preparation, not to set them aside, because that won't help anyone, but to maintain them, to adapt them to the context that we're in, and to continue to work closely with our partners in the field. And we are so grateful to have you, this community, as a key and critical partner in this time and in this moment. So thank you very much. I look forward to having a great day with all of you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sandy, for such strong and meaningful words to start our day. I now have the honor of introducing Terry Clark, the Director of the Professional Services Division at the Commission, which is responsible for the development of program standards for educator preparation programs, accreditation of educator preparation programs, and the educator examination system in California. Prior to joining the CTC, Terry taught science for 13 years to students in grades 4 to 7, and Terry also has deep roots to supporting new teachers into induction that go back to the start of the BITSA program, where her strong connection started with the initial expansion of the beginning teacher support and assessment program that took place in 1998 as she served as a BITSA program director. And then upon coming to the commission, Terry's work started within teacher induction as she initially oversaw the formative assessment system training and revision process that was central to the BITSA program. Terry is a tireless, wise, and compassionate education leader, and induction has continued to hold a special and dedicated place in her work throughout the years. So I now turn it over to Terry for her welcoming words.
Thank you so much, Karen. I'm so very glad to be with you today at this 4th annual induction conference since these restarted. This virtual conference day is not like any of the prior 3 induction conferences, but as we all know, 2020 is unlike any other year. Induction is such an important part of growing and learning as a professional educator. The sink or swim approach that was in place when many of us became teachers is not the way to bring new teachers or administrators into our profession. We've lost too many aspiring educators because the supports, the scaffolding that they needed was not something that the profession valued or prioritized. To ensure that California students have the teachers and administrators that they deserve, we need to support and increase our systems of support, collegiality, and learning from each other. We are all in the education field, and a core value that I believe we all hold is that educators learn, grow, and develop their skills throughout their career. With the first 2 to 5 years of an educator's career, a time of extensive growth, much like we see with babies. The value of continuous growth and development with support and coaching is intrinsically entwined with the educator induction world. My work as an educator has focused on new teacher inductions since the mid-1990s, and my heart still is with this community. Today, this convening of induction leaders to grow and learn together is one of the key truths of induction. Another key feature is the individualized support and coaching that new educators need. This has been true since the New Teacher Project, through the years as the BITSA program, and to now the teacher and administrator induction of today. By working together with more experienced colleagues, an educator grows and develops. The education community, induction programs, mentors and coaches, and our schools all continue to benefit from induction. This is not easy work, but I find our work so important and fulfilling. Now I want to talk to each of you as an educator. It is essential that you take care of yourself. Like all state employees' favorite airline says, put your mask on first so that you are there and ready and able to assist those around you. Each of us needs to take care of our physical health, but also our emotional and mental health so that we are ready to support the mentors, coaches, new teachers, new administrators, and who we really do this all for, the students of California. The Commission is still looking at the appropriate flexibilities regarding COVID. Item 2G from last week's Commission meeting began a discussion of what should be happening in fall 2021 when this year's preliminary candidates move into schools as new educators. There will be additional items on the Commission's agenda this coming winter, spring. Watch the agenda. Work with Karen and Gay as your knowledgeable education consultants working in your programs, and watch the PSDE news. I sincerely hope that the induction community will be able to come together next year in person again, and that today is a day of learning, sharing, and personal growth for each of us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Terry. How wise that Terry can slip in a reference to babies, being a new grandma herself. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the other half of our community today, that from the Performance Assessment Department. Amy Rising is the director, and a little bit of background on her. She began her career in education as a high school fine arts teacher in Virginia. And then she moved on to state education agency work, working with both Virginia and Connecticut departments of education. When she moved on to California, she joined WestEd San Francisco and stayed with them for 8 years with various projects that involved student and teacher assessments. At the same time, she was pursuing her PhD in quantitative methods in education at UC Berkeley. After a year of teaching at Santa Cruz and working with the New Teacher Center, Amy joined the CTC for her first tour of duty. She joined at a time when the BITSA induction program was in its infancy and served on the governing board jointly with CDE and CTC for 8 years. During this time, she also served as a professional services division as administrator of exams and research. Amy went on to become the deputy director of the National Comprehensive Center for Teacher Quality, a national education center that's housed in Washington, D.C. and serves all 50 states. She returned to California to take the position of Director of Credentialing and Teacher Development at San Diego's High-Tech High Charter School. And then in 2015, she was appointed by Governor Jerry Brown as the Commission's Deputy Director, focusing on performance assessment development. She was then appointed as the Director of Performance Assessment Policy and Development in August of 2019 by Governor Newsom. Since her return to the CTC, Amy has overseen the redesign of the Cal TPA, the development of the Cal APA. She's currently designing and piloting the Ed Specialist Cal TPA, and on the horizon is the Early Childhood Education Performance Assessment. Along the way, she has raised 3 fun-loving children, all who ended up graduating from a UC near the ocean, and that would be UCSD and UC Santa Cruz. She's tried to learn how to surf, and she has developed a passion for knitting. It is my great pleasure to introduce Amy Rising.
Hey, thank you so much, Gay. That's exhausting to listen to you read through that. Thank you so much. I would just like to start my comments this morning, and I will move along because we are just a bit behind in our agenda, but I would be remiss if I did not start my comments by deeply thanking Terry Clark for all of her work. She has shown us that commitment and amazing steadfast leadership and her endless support to all of us, both at the Commission and to all of stakeholders that work with the Commission, and particularly to all of you in Induction. Terry, you are an inspiration to all of us, and I wish you a restful and happy retirement filled with family and friends and your new grandbaby. In addition to that, I just want to talk for 1 second about the importance of support and collaboration from the performance assessment side of the work, which is so integral to the work of PSD and accreditation and the work of developing our new educators, both teachers and administrators. I want to just make sure that you all know that we are here to support you in this important work. We will have several sessions today that will help reveal what these performance assessments are all about, and what is so important to remember are the words of Mary and Terry Clark and others that you will hear today about how it is that we link tightly teacher preparation to induction, and that teachers in California have multiple years of support as they learn to become highly effective teachers. One of the pieces that I really want to highlight this morning in my few last seconds here is a document that we call the Performance Assessment Guide for Programs. This is a quite elaborately written guide that was particularly designed to help programs support candidates. And so those of you who are just coming into this work, this is a piece of our support series that I really want to point out to you. And you can find this on our website, www.ctcexams.nesinc.com, and go to the faculty supports, and you will find it there. So if there is one thing that you do leave today with, please go and look at the program guides. We have them both for the administrative performance assessment work and for the teacher performance assessment work from the Commission. And with that, welcome to all of you. It's going to be a great day. It is my great honor now to turn it over to our dear friends at Q. Computer Using Educators is what it was called for many, many years. Now it's called Q. And I am going to turn it over to Pam Gildersleeve Hernandez, who is going to speak for a moment about the supports that they offer from their amazing organization. Pam?
Well, thank you. And first and foremost, thank you to all of you teachers and administrators for serving in education right now. Your calling could not be more timely. And as so many of our colleagues are just feeling the challenges, and I know you are feeling it too, it's inspiring that you're saying, you know what, I'm showing up. This is mission work, as we heard earlier. Thank you so much for that, Amy. And sometimes I want to have those really on point words that describe the gratitude that we have for you as a society, because you will stand up the next generation of doctors. And we hear the lawyers and professors, the next generation of teachers, those who will guide us to solving all of the world's problems. And you're doing it in the middle of a global pandemic. You're doing it from your living rooms, from your bedrooms. And thank you. Thank you to all of you for being called to this and hanging in there with us in this moment. Here at Q, we create a community first and foremost for educators. And so if you're joining in the teacher profession and you're wondering, where do I meet with other folks that are like me? And if you are at that place where, I understand the power of educational technology to enhance and accelerate learning, I want to add to that conversation. I want to learn more skills. Connect with a local Q affiliate. And this is going to sound like a sales pitch right now. I'm so sorry, but I don't know how to make it not sound like a sales pitch. But our membership is free. We're a nonprofit. And what we do is invest in teachers and administrators. That is truly just everything that we do. I was a member of Q for 10 years before taking on this position, 17 years in the classroom, including my substitute teaching days, 10 years an administrator, going all the way from being an assistant principal to a superintendent and just being able to, understand every position. But I'd love to invite you into our community. You do that by going to q.org. There's the commercial, but there are local affiliates in your geographical area and other teachers, those that are experienced, those are new, that you can connect with. And then through our organization, we have a hashtag we rally around, hashtag We Are Q. And, it's the follow us, follow me at P. Gilders on Twitter. One of the things that I value most about our profession is the ability to have reverse mentorship. And it's not just that we are here for you as mentors because we've been in the game for a while, a couple decades, several decades, but also for those of you that are starting out in the teaching profession and you have experiences that somebody of my generation doesn't, right? Because you're in your 20s and you see the kids differently and you understand the pop culture of the time and the challenges from the perspective of a 15-year-old, a 25-year-old, and a 35-year-old. And for you that are new to the administrative profession and you're seeing it from the lens of what does it mean to do this during a pandemic when we're looking to connect all of our students with access and equity, connect, because your influence on us is just as important as what we have to offer to you from our lens of perspective. And with that, I appreciate the CTC always allowing us to be part of this induction event and partnering on here. My gratitude to all of you, and then to teachers and administrators that are in this space and spending this time together today. Thank you from all of us. I know I speak for everyone here when I say that.
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate our friends at Q and want to keep you close. Thank you, Pam, for joining us today. If there's one thing this conference has always been about, it's about colleagues helping colleagues and the practitioners in the field helping others come alongside them. So we wanted to start our day with a panel of practitioners to speak about some of the challenges they have seen and the ways they have adapted over the past few months. So we would like to introduce Patrick McKee, Stacey Teiser, Delia Estrada, and Terry Peretti as panelists. And I have a couple of questions to start our thinking off for the day. So you might want to change your screen. I don't know if you can change your screen in webinar as these folks shared their insights with us. So I'm going to ask if you would start by introducing yourself by your name, institution, and whether you are a teacher in induction or administrator's induction program, and then the role that you served and the number of candidates that you have, ballpark figure, with preliminary needs. Patrick, may we start with you?
Yes, good morning. My name is Patrick McKee. I'm the director of the Foothill Consortium Induction Program, and our sponsoring district is West Covina Unified. And let me go ahead and start my video. Good morning. And we serve new teachers in Bonita Unified, Claremont, Charter Oak, Glendora, and West Covina Unified School District. And right now we have 13 teachers who have some type of other preliminary requirement that they are trying to clear, as well as induction. And that would include the TPA, RECA, CTEL, and CSEPs.
And Stacey, may we move to you next?
Hi, I'm Stacey Teiser, and I am from the San Mateo County Office of Education. We are a teacher induction program, and we are a consortium, so we serve 23 districts plus private schools. The number of candidates with preliminary needs is 28, and that includes RECA and the TPA. We have others that also have some other needs beyond that too. And I am serving as a mentor and a coach.
Thank you so much. Terry, moving on to you. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Hi there. Good morning. Yes, I'm Terry Peretti with National University, and I work in the induction program, but I'm also a professor with the preliminary program. And so we work really hard on sort of the transition. As many of you know, we probably credential more candidates than a lot of universities because of the online feature. And so we're working now to kind of transition our preliminaries into our induction, and that seems to be growing. We found too that we have a number of folks that are still in the non-consequential that may not make that deadline, much because of what's happening with the pandemic. And so we're challenged with working on that right now as well. So thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thank you much. And Delia Estrada.
Hi, my name is Delia Estrada. I work with LA Unified, and we are currently serving about approximately 60 sitting administrators as they clear their credential. My main task, so you know, as an administrator, other duties as assigned are included in my job. Is a coach in the induction program.
Thank you. So to start off, we wanted to talk a little bit, how did your program ascertain that the candidates coming in had preliminary needs? How are you tracking their progress? And if you are a mentor, as some of you indicated, how did you personally explore what your candidates, or boots on the ground, really need to accomplish first? Patrick, may I choose you first?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kay. So when our teachers start with us, we always begin with an entrance meeting. And so this year, that entrance meeting has been virtual, and we sit down and review their credential. And we talk about the induction renewal code and that piece, making sure they understand why they're here and that transition from the preliminary program. But then we go through any additional renewal requirements. And most of the candidates, actually I can say all of them, they know what those additional requirements are. Our preliminary programs have been very great at sharing that with them. So there's never been a surprise. But then what we do is we talk about the strategies. How are we going to help support them to not only go through the induction experience, but also clear the additional requirements so that we can successfully clear the credential. So once we determine that there are any additional renewal requirements, they sign off what's called a credential evaluation summary. So we both sign it off and make sure we're all in the same understanding of what the needs are. But then I assign them to a credential renewal code meeting. And that meeting takes place after their mentor has been assigned. So I then sit down virtually with the mentor, the candidate, and myself, and we talk about all the other renewal codes and how we can support them in the induction experience, with also supporting them with clearing those additional renewal codes. And we talk about the options that are available to them. We talk about what their pace is. Some of them are already like on track and they have an idea of what they want to do. Some of them don't have an idea. And what we've told them in the fall is, let's focus on teaching right now. And let's talk about this maybe later on into the spring. And some of them are ready to go. So we kind of want to figure out where they're at. We've also developed a website, and on this website, all those resources we get through PSD News, we put it all there like in a one-stop shop. So they know where they can go to for those webinars, where they can go sign up for classes, for CTEL. So we put everything there and we walk through that website so they can see those resources are there. Most importantly, we tell them we can really work with you if you like to embed all this into their ILP. And so what we want to see is if they have additional renewal codes, are there ways we can then, by their choice, make this maybe one of their professional learning goals? Can we make this some of the professional learning activities? Or perhaps we can build this into their inquiry. So ways that we've built this into their inquiry and their ILP, let's take CTEL as an example, is do you have second language learners you're currently working with? Can you then look at focusing on those second language learners as your focus students as you build the inquiry, so what you're learning for the CTEL can also cross over into your ILP. We also talk about like the RECA, let's focus your inquiry on a reading strategy if you'd like to, or for the TPA, can we make your inquiry for the TPA match your inquiry for the ILP? So the quick summary is we try to embed it, put it all together so that they see that it can be interwoven and not that everything is a standalone. At the end of year one, we're going to have a transition meeting with each of the candidates, see where they're at, and then reboot and figure out what we need to do for them in year two.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Terry, can you give us a perspective from the IHE program? Once you unmute yourself.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I think probably the major thing that has changed is the personalization. As Patrick mentioned, we have a credential specialist where most of that communication has started. But one thing that's been really different for us is that as faculty, we've jumped in and been an integral part of that process. And that means boots on the ground, calling candidates, emailing candidates. We've created a website that's interactive, we pull from sources. So there's, again, a one-stop shop. We've created meetings with our adjunct faculty and our faculty that are teaching in the program because they're also an integral part of the support. We were very intentional in our process and put it into a plan. But I will tell you that we've tried to be very cognitive that once you make a plan, that you don't want to spend more time collecting the data to support the plan. You want to be doing the work. But one thing that we added is a student wellness portion because we find that candidates are struggling. They're dealing with their own needs and then the needs of their students that they're working with. So thank you.
Makes sense. Stacey and Delia, if you address our second question, what model of support have you decided to use and how have you trained those who are providing the support to help those candidates, and what flexibilities have you considered?
So I'll go ahead and start. So one of the things that I had started out thinking was that I would be supporting the candidates as they go through the TPA, but they also need their mentor to support them. And it's not a far reach for our mentor. Much of the activities that they're going to be doing as they go through and they complete their TPA, their mentor has been working with them in induction, doing those things. And then, so kind of, we have asked the people, I have contacted each of the candidates that need to complete the TPA. We have asked them to think about starting it in the spring, just so that we could get up and running so that they can figure out what teaching looks like. So as we're coming to that springtime, we will be supporting them through our LMS system in Canvas. And we will have assignments and pages for them that have all of the information that they need to complete it. And then throughout that, we'll be having monthly both check-in meetings as well as professional learning on how to complete, not how to complete, but support in completing each of those documents. And I'll be inviting their mentors to come with them. We'll be recording those, so if they can't make the time that we have set, they can watch the recordings. And then throughout the next few months, I'll be offering office hours where they can come and meet with me individually, as well as some group times where they can meet together and talk about what are they doing for their TPA. As far as training others, that training is going to happen as we go through it with just the mentors who are supporting. We're not going to train all of our mentors. And then the mentor will continue doing that just in time. And then as far as being flexible, we're really building it into their ILP. We're actually kind of saying the documents that you're completing for the TPA can even substitute for the ILP. They've already done their goal setting and that type of thing. But many of the activities that they're doing are kind of the same activities that they might be doing for their ILP. So their action step on their ILP might be, I'm going to be completing my TPA and here's how I'm going to be doing it. And then the documents become the support for doing that. Other than that, we're still kind of navigating this as we go, as we're moving our own induction program online. We're also navigating supporting the people in the TPA.
Great. And Delia?
Okay, I'm going to frame my answer in a particular way. I want to say before COVID and after, because we had to make a major adaptation because of the circumstances. So originally we would have 4, because ours is job embedded, they would be released 4 times a year to come and be with us for 6 hours. And the 8 coaches would come together. We would design activities for them so we could go really in depth into the standards where they could discover their why as administrators, and they can see the practical application and evidence that's all around them that they can collect to complete their individual induction plan, their IAP for short, as we call it. But when this happened, we knew we had to change it completely because they needed more support, not only because they were the support providers to entire communities, but also because they still have to be moving forward and take care of themselves. So what we've moved to, we've now gone to half days online where they come in for 3 hours and we are actually working with them and discussing with them what's going on. And it is designed by this team of incredible coaches that I work with. And the coaching continues. So we are coaches. So after each one of those, they get individualized coaching so they can also be leading through their IIP and know exactly where they are. So the conversation continues. So they have chances to network with other administrators for support. They have their coach, and then their coach can take them through. Another feature we put in is they also have a problem of practice, because as administrators and leaders, they really needed to understand is your job is to disturb the waters. Your job is to help them adapt, okay, to do this. So as time has come in, and because we meet on a weekly basis, you asked about how do we support each other. We come together on a weekly basis. We look at what we're hearing. We look at what the issues are coming up, and we keep designing. And we've added another feature, and we call it Coffee with the Coaches, where they come together just for an hour, okay? And we come in and we really zero in on issues that they've asked us. And again, and they continue to be supported through coaching sessions. So it's really almost an ongoing dialogue, right? Leadership and teaching and doing this work is ever evolving. So we try to make it an ongoing conversation, okay? That we help them with their thinking and they help us to inform the system of what people need.
Well, as these things happen, we're running out of time and we're already over a little bit. So I'm going to jump to our last question and ask if all 4 of you would please address the last question. And it's pretty broad. What makes you hopeful that you're going to be successful in coaching induction candidates to complete their preliminary requirements? So Patrick, can we start with you?
I think the greatest gift already is just hearing it straight from our candidates, that they feel a breath of fresh air, that they're not having to do all these things at once, that is all embedded and interwoven. I've heard that from our candidates already. Like, I'm glad I'm going to get support. I'm glad I'm going to have a mentor to help me also do these other pieces. And hopeful, my piece is that we're also going to improve student achievement along the way. And that's why we're all here. If we're focusing our inquiries on the same things that they're doing the professional learning activities on, be it reading, be it CTEL requirements, in the end, we're going to improve student achievement. And that's why we're all here.
Great. I agree. Delia?
I'm going to share something amazing that happened, particularly for me, but it was the whole team. That we moved completely online and got skilled at it, really learning to do that we could do this. I was the one a year ago says, can you coach online? I don't like online coaching, right? And then suddenly I realized, oh my God, it is powerful. We can change, we can adapt, if we embrace this. And I'm going to give a shout out to my coaching lead, Mara Crossan, who says, yes, you can, Delia. And not only that, you can get good at it. That's what brings me hope. Yes, we can. And yes, we can master this, and we have proof.
And Stacey.
So one of the things that gives me hope is, much like Patrick said, the candidates are just so positive, and I know that they're working really hard, and they're just so thankful to have support. But the other thing is that I work with a great team who I know is going to support whatever we decide to do in helping these candidates complete the process.
Great, thank you much. And then Terry will give you the last word. And look, you already unmuted yourself.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I think really the focus on faculty working with candidate, faculty working with candidate and coach. The other thing is faculty working with faculty. We have intentional sessions where we practice with one another. And I have to give a shout out to Dr. Wayne Padover because he's led that. It's a collaborative effort. So it's a lot of fun to work with these candidates. And I love the online. We've been doing that. So we've kind of flipped it to do more of the personalization with the other outreach. And so it's a great combination.
Thank you so much for the four of you and starting our thinking on this very deep and powerful day we hope together. And thank you so much for being with us. I'll turn it back over to Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you from me as well to our panel of program leaders for starting off our day with such inspiration and guidance for us all. So now we look forward to moving into our day of purposeful and informational sessions. Many of our presenters are leaders in the education and induction communities, and we thank them for sharing their wisdom and expertise. Quickly, today's schedule has 4 time slots. It's on the screen. Each session will be 50 minutes with 5 breakout choices during each time slot for you to choose from. So you can see the times. We have 2 sessions this morning, the first 10:10 to 11 o'clock, then 11:10 to 12. We have a lunch break from 12 to 12:50, and then we move into round 3 and 4 in the afternoon, 12:50 to 1:40 and 1:50 to 2:40 respectively. At 2:40, we look forward to coming back together for some final words and information before we end our day. So again, on behalf of the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, thank you for joining our 4th annual California Induction Conference. We hope you have a wonderful day of sessions, and we look forward to seeing you back when we're together at 2:40.